beauties, and put your phones on D&D. Because today, we are dissecting an absolute masterpiece of female apathy. This is a story about a man who was handed a cosmic do, over only to realize that having future knowledge doesn't mean a damn thing if you don't have a woman's infrastructure to fund it. It's a hilarious, brutal takedown of the average, yet confident tech bro. Let's get into the wreckage. 1 second Derek was still meekly taking that black card from my hand. And the next second, he suddenly seemed to get electrocuted and viciously threw the card onto the expensive Persian carpet. His eyes were red, then rimmed as he roared at me. "Victoria, I've had enough. I'll never again be manipulated by your filthy money." At the same time, rows of faintly glowing translucent text suddenly appeared in midair in my field of vision, scrolling like crazy, just like the live chat in a YouTube stream. OMG, the male lead has rebirth. In his previous life, Derek and his childhood sweetheart Raven really were such a heartbreaking unfinished. They were clearly so in love yet they lost to reality. It is all because this vicious supporting female character Victoria took advantage of his vulnerability and used a damned contract boyfriend agreement to control the male lead. In this life, Derek has business memories from the future, so he'll definitely be able to make a comeback against the odds in Silicon Valley. Let's see how this rich old woman can keep a hold over him now. Looking at the scrolling comments in front of me, I slightly raised an eyebrow. Old woman, I'm only 20 Jan 8 this year, right at my peak. And also, he dares throw my black card. Does he really think the earth can't keep turning without him? I let out a cold laugh without the slightest concern and walked out the door in my custom Jan-made high heels. The street was full of busy traffic, and I casually grabbed a blonde boy who just happened to be passing by, wearing rhinestone studs and a ripped distressed denim jacket. I bent down to pick up that black card and stuffed it straight into his hand. $50,000 a month in spending money, plus this unlimited credit card. Be my exclusive contract boyfriend. You in or not? In that single breath just now, Derek seemed like he'd been completely reborn. The awkwardness and inferiority unique to a poor student on him vanished without a trace, replaced by an arrogance and haughtiness that could only be steeped out of Ivy League schools and piles of Wall Street money. This was way too abnormal. His gaze at me was full of undisguised disgust. The bills for my mother at the private medical center won't trouble Miss Victoria to worry about. In this life, I'll use my own hands to earn everything. And from now on, please don't use this kind of insulting money contract to trample on my dignity ever again. After saying that, as if I were some untouchable virus, he pulled out that old phone of his with the cracked screen right in front of me and dialed a number. The moment the call connected, Derek's cold voice instantly turned gentle, as if possessed by some deeply affectionate male lead. "Raven, where are you? Last night, I was blinded by stupidity. That is why I said all that in anger to you. You're the only one I've ever had in my heart. Stay right where you are and don't move. I swear, I'll come pick you up right now." I crossed my arms and watched the expression on his face shift from gentle to anxious, then get swallowed by overwhelming ecstasy, looking exactly like some delusional lunatic who just escaped from a mental hospital. The holographic bullet comments hanging in midair were excitedly flooding the screen like crazy. Reborn into a new life, he finally bravely went after love. There is still time for everything. The female supporting character must be totally dumbfounded right now, huh? Her obedient little puppy, who always did whatever she wanted, suddenly bit back. Haha! In the previous life, Derek's mother was seriously ill, and he couldn't afford the expensive medical bills in America, so he had no choice but to sell his soul and sign an agreement with Victoria. As a result, he lost Raven forever, and Raven married someone else. Now that the male lead has been reborn, no matter how many US dollars the female supporting character offers, he won't take them. Money can't buy true love. There were too many bullet comments, too dense to read. I picked up the cold brew coffee on the table and took a sip, and it took me a while to sort out the logic. Simply put, the world I live in is a rebirth romance novel, set against the backdrop of urban America. I'm the vicious female CEO who throws money at people. Derek and his one true love Raven are the male and female leads, and this Derek in front of me, who just finished freaking out, has been reborn back from the future. In the previous life, he was driven into a corner because he couldn't come up with the sky-dan high medical expenses for his mother. And I, as the group's CEO, just happened to need a presentable male companion to deal with my family's pressure to get married. Plus, I had my eye on his fairly handsome face, so I offered to pay him a salary of $50,000 US a month to play my contract boyfriend. The job was simple. Come whenever called, provide emotional value, accompany me to dinners, and do as I say. In the previous life, he hesitated, struggled, suffered, and in the end signed his name in humiliation. During the agreement period, he enjoyed the luxury cars, designer watches, and top-tier connections I provided, while secretly pining in his heart for his white moonlight Raven, thinking I was the one who split them up, thinking my high Dan mighty attitude humiliated him. Finally, when he found out Raven was going to marry someone else, he completely broke down and ran to Raven's wedding to make a huge scene and try to snatch the bride. In the end, he was ruthlessly rejected by the other party and thrown out by the security guards. In his anger and despair, he came to me to throw a tantrum, tried to attack me, and got beaten up by my top bodyguards. In the end, he wandered onto the highway in a daze and was hit to death by a drunk truck driver. When he opened his eyes again, he had returned to the day he was just about to sign the agreement. But I really find it hilarious. Before seeing these bullet comments, I didn't even know he had some so damn called childhood sweetheart. I may be a billionaire capitalist, but I don't like that whole forcing people to buy and sell crap. Half a month ago, I gave him the terms of the agreement and let him think it over carefully. If he didn't want to, he could have just refused directly. Did anyone put a gun to his head? Derek returned through rebirth, flagged down a taxi by the roadside. He viciously threw down one last sentence at me. I'm going to the station to pick up Raven right now. My life will never again have even a cent's worth of connection with a cold, jan-blooded capitalist like you. I let out a cold scoff. Did he really think that on the entire West Coast he was the only handsome man around? So I directly grabbed that blonde boy passing by. I sized him up from head to toe. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, deep den set, chiseled features. Even though he was dressed like a wandering singer, those blue eyes were as clear as the waters off California. He looked really good. I decisively slapped the Amex Black card into his hand. Hey, $50,000 US a month. Be my contract boyfriend. You in or not? The blonde boy was obviously stunned. He blinked those pretty blue eyes, and after processing it, he immediately, quick Jan-eyed and quick Jan-handed, stuffed the black card into the pocket of that tattered jacket. He nodded like a pecking chicken, grinning wide enough to show two cute little tiger teeth. Yes, boss, if you tell me to go east, I absolutely won't go west. The barrage instantly freaked out. Wait, what's going on? Isn't the supporting actress supposed to be pathetically head over heels for the male lead? How did she turn around and hand an unlimited black card to some random passerby? The male lead's rebirth triggered a butterfly effect. the plot changed. No way it changed this fast. A control freak like Victoria is definitely just trying to make Derek feel a sense of crisis, randomly grabbing someone to put on an act. Derek, who hadn't gone far yet, also heard the commotion. He turned around and looked at this scene in disbelief. He seemed to realize things hadn't developed according to the script of his previous life, but the wild joy of soon reuniting with his beloved, along with the pride of being a future tech tycoon, left him with no time to think too much. He let out a cold sneer and mocked. "You can even take a liking to this kind of street punk. Victoria, you really must be starving enough to eat anything." After saying that, he got into the taxi and sped off. The blonde boy was so pissed off by what he said that he practically jumped up, raising a middle finger at the taxi. "You're the punk. Your whole family are punks." Then he turned his head and looked at me eagerly, like a golden retriever. "Miss, I swear, I can definitely do better than that poker face. I absolutely won't make you feel like this investment went down the drain." Only then did I take a careful look at the boy in front of me. I couldn't help frowning. I was only looking at his face just now, and only now did I realize this outfit of his was a complete disaster. Never mind that slightly bleached, dan-out blonde hair of his. There were actually 8 holes in his jeans. And the huge rhinestone on his ear glittered so much under the Los Angeles sun that it gave me a headache. This is way too seen. The blonde boy keenly noticed my scrutinizing gaze and faint dissatisfaction. He hurriedly leaned closer. "Miss, I've got really good bones. Clean me up, and I'm definitely a huge hottie. Whatever you're unhappy with about my styling, I'll change it right away." After saying that, he clutched the pocket holding the black card tightly and warily took half a step back. "But you already gave me the money, so no refunds." At the end, he softened his voice and added in a coquettish tone, "I'm very obedient. I promise to provide top tier emotional value." His guarding little gesture made me laugh. Forget it. At least this face is flawless, and his attitude is way better than that. Stuck Jen up Derek. Let's package him up first and see how it goes. I handed the boy over to my chief lifestyle assistant and had her take him to the most high-end salon for a full makeover from head to toe. That night, after finishing up a few acquisition deals in the office, I finally saw the brand. Jen knew him. He was wearing a tailored bespoke suit with a subtle dark pattern. His blonde hair cut into sharp, neat layers and slicked back with wet Jan-look hair wax, revealing a full forehead and deep Jan-set brows and eyes. After taking off the rhinestone stud earrings, his whole body gave off a kind of casual nobility, like some young noble heir from an old Jan money conglomerate family who'd somehow gotten lost. I nodded very satisfactorily. Not bad. This money was well spent. The brand new boy shoved aside the assistant standing next to me in one move and very attentively brought me a cup of warm lemon water. "Sis, drink some water," I told you. "I'm definitely a high Jan potential stock, right?" I took the cup and leaned back in the leather swivel chair. "Introduce yourself first. Any family history of genetic disease? Have you signed similar agreements before?" The boy instantly looked a little wronged, like a puppy that had been falsely accused. "Sis, what kind of person do you take me for? I do extra work in Hollywood. I may be poor, but I'm absolutely clean. You're the first person to keep." "Oh no, sponsor me." After hearing that the $50,000 was a monthly salary, not an annual salary, that little bit of grievance he had just now instantly flew out of his mind, and he was so happy he almost started tap dancing in my luxurious office. "My name is Oliver. I'm 9 feet 8 inches tall. And my dream is to break into Broadway and Hollywood and win the Oscar for Best Actor. I swear I'm absolutely healthy." Of course, I wasn't going to just take his word for it. After the full set of premium medical exam reports came out, confirming that he was physically and mentally healthy and had no bad habits whatsoever, Oliver officially started the job and became me, Victoria's exclusive companion. Next, I was going to take him out to really do some spending. On the weekend, I took Oliver, my newly hired exclusive companion, to Rodeo Drive for a shopping spree. Have to say, the happiness of rich people really is this plain and unpretentious. Oliver was not only a natural clothes horse, but also extremely good at providing emotional value. Every time he tried on an outfit, he'd look at me with those sparkling blue eyes and keep finding new ways to praise my taste. After shopping until we were tired, we pushed open the ornate glass doors of a Michelin 3 10-star French restaurant. The moment I sat down in the VIP seat by the window, I felt an extremely piercing gaze. At a small table not far away, Derek was gently handing the gold foiled menu to Raven across from him. But the instant he saw me, the gentleness on his face instantly froze, and his expression turned so gloomy it looked like water could drip from it. Raven turned her head following his gaze and saw me. At this moment, Raven looked a little. She was a typical girl next door, wearing an ordinary floral dress from a fast fashion brand, looking somewhat out of place in this top tier restaurant, glittering with crystal chandeliers. "Derek, who is that woman?" she asked softly. Derek clenched his teeth and said nothing. I couldn't even be bothered to spare them a glance. Taking the wine list, the waiter handed over. I started discussing with Oliver which vintage red would pair better with today's beef Wellington. Just then Raven suddenly stood up, stomped over to my table in those obviously ill-fitting flats, fuming with anger. "So you're that cold-blooded capitalist woman who wants to keep Derek as your sugar baby with money. Like a warrior defending love," she loudly accused me. "How can you be so vicious, trying to use money to buy out someone else's dignity?" I slowly lifted my eyelids and looked at the girl in front of me, whose face was flushed red. "Who are you?" Although I'd seen those weird bullet comments, and knew she was the novel's white moonlight heroine, according to the current logic of reality, I didn't know her at all. Raven straightened her slender back and proudly announced, "I'm Derek's childhood sweetheart. We grew up together. Right now, I'm his official girlfriend." I let out a soft chuckle and shook my head. "Oh, never heard of you. If you're not here to sell handmade cookies from your neighborhood, then please don't disturb my meal." Raven was enraged by my contemptuous attitude, her face flushing bright red. Seeing this, Derek immediately strode over and pulled Raven behind him in one swift motion, as if I was some man-eating monster. "Victoria, I've already made it clear that I rejected you. So why are you still clinging to me like some stalker, haunting me and refusing to go away?" Derek lowered his voice, trying to keep up that ridiculous dignity of his. "We're all adults here. Have some self-respect." The holographic comments floating in midair in front of me immediately started scrolling like crazy. Derek protecting his wife like that is so hot. I'm dying from shipping them. This is what true love looks like. The regret from the last life has finally been made up for. Tell that rich old woman to get lost. Victoria must be insanely jealous right now. The money she prides herself on is worthless in the face of true love. Watching this cheap soap opera play out in front of me, I speechlessly tossed the wine list onto the table and let out a sigh. "Derek, I'm just here to have dinner. Which eye of yours saw me pestering you?" I looked around. "Or are you saying that To celebrate your great love, you booked out this Michelin restaurant today." Derek let out a cold snort and said with absolute certainty, "I didn't book out the place, but you know what I mean. Reservations at this restaurant have to be made at least 3 months in advance. And yet, you just happened to show up here today. Don't tell me that is a coincidence." Of course, he didn't know that the group secretly controlling this restaurant is my conglomerate. I can come whenever I want. If you haven't booked out the place, then please move aside and stop blocking my personal butler from serving the dishes. I coldly gave the order to leave. The restaurant manager nearby, very tactful, quickly stepped forward and made a gesture at Derek. "Sir, please do not disturb other guests while they dine. Your seat is over there." Derek, his face livid, dragged Raven back to their seat. They ordered a signature steak and French escargot. Raven obviously had never been to a place like this before, and faced with that row of complicated knives and forks, she looked completely at a loss. Derek, on the other hand, found his home ground again. He indulgently stroked Raven's head, then, with an extremely skilled and elegant posture, taught her how to use French tableware. This kind of table, etiquette etched into his bones, was fed into him in his previous life by following at my side, with the countless US dollars I threw down and the countless top celebrity banquets I attended. And now he was using the noble temperament I gave him to please another woman. Under Derek's gentle guidance, Raven blushed shyly, her eyes full of admiration. "Derek, you know so much. You're practically like a real upper-den class gentleman." Derek smiled with restraint, enjoying this vanity. "It is nothing. The dishes here are actually pretty average. Once my recent investment plan is in place, I'll take you to that most exclusive private club in the city center. The head chef there is the real deal." He took Raven's hand, his voice just loud enough for me to hear. "Raven, in this life, I swear I'll spoil you into the happiest princess in Los Angeles." Hearing that, Oliver, sitting beside me, almost sprayed the soda in his mouth out. Holding back his laughter, he leaned close to my ear. "Sis, your taste back then really was quite unique. Did he watch too many retro soap operas? Shut up and order your food." I cut into a piece of black truffle and said flatly. Oliver very sensibly ordered a few expensive but delicately portioned signature dishes. After ordering, the corner of his eye caught the MFAIR financial report I had set by the table, and he casually muttered, "Sis, the debt ratio data for this tech company has obviously been tampered with. Why not switch to a different investment target?" I raised an eyebrow, treating him as nothing more than an outsider, pretending to know what he was talking about, and didn't take it to heart. I was surprised to find that although he usually looked like a street punk, his table manners were unhurried and impeccable. While we were eating, Raven's deliberately hushed gasp suddenly came from Derek's table, not far away. "Oh my God, just these 2 steaks and 1 bottle of table wine cost $1,250. Raven stared at the bill, her voice trembling. "My monthly salary is less than $4,000 after taxes right now. They must have made a mistake." The waiter kept an impeccable smile. "Ma'am, all the prices are clearly marked on our menu. If you have any questions, you can check them yourself." "All right, Raven." Derek felt a little embarrassed and cut her off with a frown. "It's only a little over $1,000. It's nothing." For Derek, who had memories of his previous life and had once followed me spending money like water, $1,000 really wasn't even enough to buy 1 good bottle of wine he used to drink. Looking at how calm and nonchalant Derek was, Raven instantly felt like a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. A trace of inferiority flashed through her eyes, but even more than that, delight. Derek, Idenyu, did you win the lottery? You've become so amazing now. I'm starting to feel a little unworthy of you. Derek let out a careless light chuckle, then turned and snapped his fingers at the waiter. Put it on my tab. Have my assistant settle it all together at the end of the month. The waiter gave a slight, polite bow. Sorry. Sir, establishment only provides charge gen-to-gen account services for Black Diamond VIP members. The system shows that you currently do not have this privilege. Back when he was with me, Derek could just sign the bill wherever he went, and he had obviously already come to treat that as his own privilege. Hearing the refusal, Derek pouted unhappily. So many rules. With that, he habitually slipped his hand into the inner pocket of his expensive suit, wanting to pull out the Amex Black card I had given him. The instant his hand went in, his expression suddenly changed. He suddenly remembered that a few days ago, to show off the proud backbone of his rebirth, he had already thrown that black card symbolizing endless wealth onto my carpet. The floating comments in midair also grew tense. Oh no, a little over $1,000 was a drop in the bucket to the male lead in his previous life. But he really seems to have, I remember the novel setting, said that the male lead was kept by the supporting female character just 1 month after graduating. So he had no savings at all. And his mum's private sanatorium is still waiting for that sky-den high bill to be paid. What are they gonna do? Don't panic, isn't Victoria. This ATM right there beside him. She definitely can't bear to watch the male lead make a fool of himself, so in the end she'll still pay the bill for him. Right, this is exactly the supporting female characters playing Dan hard, Dan to Dan, get trick. Deliberately making the male lead look bad first, then giving him a handout. Derek felt around on himself for quite a while, and in the end only pulled out his old phone with the cracked screen and opened the EDAN wallet. The waiter scanned it, and the machine let out a merciless prompt tone. Sorry, sir, your balance is insufficient. Derek took a deep breath. The strange looks from the diners around him made him feel like he had needles in his back. He could only turn his head and cast a pleading look at Raven. Raven almost immediately understood what Derek meant. She clutched her counterfeit designer bag tighter and took a step back. I need this scene framed and hung in the Louvre. Derek, armed with his rebirth memories, genuinely thought he was the main character. He struts into a Michelin 3-star restaurant, orders French escargot, and tries to play the billionaire playboy for his pure white moonlight, Raven. But here is the brutal reality of the male ego. It cannot be swiped at a cash register. Watching his card decline is pure, unadulterated comedy. But what's even better is Raven's reaction. Derek spent his whole previous life romanticizing Raven as this innocent, true love alternative to Victoria's filthy capitalist money. Yet, the very second the bill arrives, Raven physically takes a step back and clutches her counterfeit bag. Romance dies when the tab drops. Ladies, Derek wanted the perks of being a tech tycoon without doing the actual work. He expected the universe, and the women around him, to just cover his overhead while he cosplayed as a genius. He realized too late that the only reason he could act like a high society gentleman in his past life was because Victoria was quietly paying the cover charge. Derek, I just changed jobs, and I finally managed to save up not even $2,000 to pay next month's rent. If I pay this money for you, how am I supposed to get by after that? Raven, trust me. Derek lowered his voice urgently. I have the trends of tech stocks for the next 10 years in my head. Just give me a little startup capital, and next week I can make it back tenfold and pay you back. What makes people believe you is real action, not selling a pipe dream. Raven snapped back to her senses fast, and the admiration in her eyes instantly faded. If you have this much money, then go to this kind of restaurant. If you obviously don't have money, why did you bring me to a Michelin place? If we went to the corner and had a $15 burger, I wouldn't blame you either." Just as Derek was at his wit's end, his beat-up old phone suddenly rang. The shrill ringtone sounded especially jarring in the quiet restaurant. Derek fumbled to answer it, and because the aging phone leaked sound, the voice on the other end came through, clearly. "Mr. Derek, this is the West Coast Private Rehabilitation Center. Your mother's account is currently overdue by more than $25,000. If we have not received the transfer by sunset tomorrow, we will be forced to stop your mother's targeted drug treatment and transfer her to a general ward in a public hospital." Derek's face instantly turned deathly pale, as if every drop of blood had been drained from it. The male lead who had returned through rebirth originally carried the pride of changing the world. Yet, on the very first day of his rebirth, he was ruthlessly ground under the bills of capitalist society. I set down my wine glass at just the right moment and snapped my fingers. "Check," hearing my voice. Derek whipped his head around like a trapped beast that had been provoked, glaring at me with bloodshot eyes. "Victoria, don't even think about laughing at me," he growled through gritted teeth. "I'd rather die than take your filthy money. Don't even think about using money to buy my soul again." I took the pose machine, the waiter handed over, and casually swiped my card, without even needing to enter a PIN. "Sir, do you have persecution delusions?" I picked up my limited Dan edition platinum bag and looked at him coldly. I was just paying for my own meal after finishing eating. Since the moment I walked into this restaurant, have I ever, Judon, said even a single word to you? On the contrary, you've been here the whole time, clowning around and making a spectacle of yourself. Derek's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot, and humiliation and rage made his body tremble slightly. "Sir." The smile had already disappeared from the waiter's face, and there was silent urging in his tone. "How exactly will you be paying your bill?" After settling the bill, he stood up and got ready to leave. From the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Raven, under the pressure of the surrounding diner's contemptuous looks, and the manager preparing to call the police, pulling out her bank card with red gem-rimmed eyes and paying the bill in humiliation, then running out of the restaurant crying. Oliver very tactfully picked up the several luxury shopping bags from my recent shopping spree, and with his other hand naturally wrapped an arm around my waist, looking completely like a knight protecting his lady. However, just as we were about to brush past each other, Derek suddenly seemed like he'd been hit by some huge shock, lunged over, and grabbed Oliver's wrist in a death grip. "How is this watch on your wrist?" Derek stared at the custom Swiss mechanical watch on Oliver's wrist, glowing with a dark blue sheen, his eyes practically popping out. "You stole it, didn't you?" Oliver frowned, rudely shook Derek's hand off with force, then patted his own cuff in disgust. "Bro, are you brain damaged or what? Quit spouting bullshit here." Oliver raised his wrist and gave it a shake. "Big sis just took me to the boutique this morning to custom Jan order this watch for me. Consider it a little welcome gift for my new job. The proof of purchase is still sitting in the bag. Want me to take it out and open your eyes?" Derek looked like he'd been struck by lightning, muttering to himself with utter disbelief in his eyes. "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible." The barrage comments also exploded at this moment. Oh my God. Wasn't this watch the birthday gift Victoria gave the male lead in the previous life? He picked it out himself. It was his favorite style. The supporting female character actually deliberately bought an identical watch to give to another man. She is way too vicious. She is forcing the male lead to get jealous and lower his head. Will this supporting female character ever stop? Does she really have to humiliate the male lead like this? Derek stared fixedly at that watch for a long time. Finally, like a deflated balloon, his originally straight back slumped down, and he let out an extremely heavy sigh. I thought that with memories of the future, in this life I could break through the barriers of class and take control of my own fate. Derek tilted his head up and closed his eyes, like a martyr. I didn't expect that in the end, I'd still be bent over by these damn tens of thousands of dollars. He opened his eyes again and looked at me, his gaze carrying a kind of resigned acceptance that felt like charity. Victoria, you win. I agree to be your contract boyfriend. Now, help me pay for this meal and then immediately transfer the money to the rehab center. Before I could even speak, Oliver beside me blew up first. Ha, you think I'm invisible? Oliver stepped forward. With his height half a head taller than Derek's, he completely overpowered him and mocked him without mercy. What the hell are you, dreaming of living off my sister here? With the way you act, pretending to be noble 1 second, then kneeling for money the next. What part of you compares to me? Derek frowned in disgust and looked at me. Victoria, since I've already agreed to come back to your side, I hope you can deal with the trashy garbage hanging around you. I really don't like him. Also, that Hollier den attitude of yours, you'd better tone it down with me from now on, Mr. Derek. I coldly cut off his endless babbling and extended a slender finger, pointing at Oliver beside me. I think you've got one thing wrong. You have already expired. I looked at Derek's shocked face and said word by word, right now, he is the one I'm investing in. With that Ivy League intelligence of yours, you should be able to understand what the word out means, right? Derek was completely enraged. He is nothing but a street punk who never even went to college. You can actually take a fancy to this pretty Dan boy idiot who has got nothing but looks. Victoria, are you trying to get back at me this way? Sorry lately, I just happen to prefer this kind of good Jan-looking pretty idiot with stable emotions. I swept a contemptuous glance over him, too lazy to waste any more words, and walked straight toward the door in my high heels. Oliver followed behind me. Before leaving, he turned his head and threw one final devastating blow at the ashen den-faced Derek. You can't even figure out how to live off a woman, and you're trying to pull that rebirth shit trash. Back at my luxurious top-10 floor flat in the city center, I'd just taken off my coat when Oliver came sidling over like a big golden retriever, desperate for some comfort. That cocky, overbearing attitude he had when he was going at Derek in the restaurant just now was completely gone, and he looked at me with those wet blue eyes. That look alone was enough for me to know exactly what he was thinking. This pretty little puppy was getting ready to ask for a reward. But that is fine, since he is someone I signed. As long as he is good, obedient, and can provide enough emotional value, I don't mind letting a few top-10 tier resources slip through my fingers to him. Victoria J. He gently wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. I turned around and pinched the bridge of his high nose. Go on, what reward do you want? At that, Oliver's eyes lit up instantly. But he didn't ask for a luxury car or a designer watch like I'd imagined. JJ, you want to audition, he said seriously. I know the biggest film and TV production company in the whole. It's under your media group. I don't need you to just throw the male lead role at me directly. That would be too fake. I just want you to help me get an audition opportunity for famous director Nolan's new movie. A little surprised, I arched a brow and carefully looked over the big boy in front of me. He is like a goofy, happy golden retriever, but there is a stubborn devotion to his dreams in his eyes. That actually caught me by surprise. I originally thought all he wanted was an unlimited credit card to blow money with. I nodded, walked over to the bar, and poured 2 glasses of bourbon whiskey. Tomorrow, I'll have my personal assistant take you to meet the casting director. If you perform well enough, not only for this project, once the movie is released, I'll use the group's PR resources to help push you for an Oscar nomination. Oliver pouted unhappily and took the glass. I don't want to be some water emperor propped up by capital. I want to win the little gold man with my own ability. After saying that, he leaned closer to me, his voice turning husky and full of temptation. But, as a trade, sis, can I apply to provide a little extra private service tonight? I looked at his handsome face so close at hand and smiled faintly. We'll see how you do. Early the next morning, I left the still sleeping Oliver in the apartment and took the private elevator down to the underground garage by myself. Just as I walked up to my globally limited black Maybach, he saw a familiar figure. Derek was standing beside my car, looking dazed. He was slowly stroking the sleek lines of the Maybach's body inch by inch, his gaze even gentler and more infatuated than when he looked at Raven last night, as if he'd fallen into some kind of exquisitely beautiful hallucination. "What are you doing here?" I asked coldly. Derek seemed to jolt awake from a dream and awkwardly pulled his hand back. The first thing he blurted out was actually, "This car is mine too." I looked at him like he was insane. "Let me correct you. This car is registered under my name. Derek, if you come to my private garage again and say this kind of crazy shit, my security team will immediately haul you over to the LAPD. At this moment, the holographic bullet comments in mid-air popped up on schedule once again. "Oh my God, the male lead sanatorium has already stopped his meds. And during this time he hasn't been eating or sleeping well. He is probably on the verge of a mental breakdown, right? Boo-hoo! Derek is so pitiful. Does he have to go back and suffer the female side character's humiliation, even after being reborn once? Did the one up there feeling sorry for the male lead get water in their brain or something? In his last life, he ate the female side character's food and used the female side character's stuff. And that is called humiliation. Please dump that kind of humiliation on me right now. Okay, I'm willing to suffer $50,000 a month in his place." Derek walked up to me, a trace of struggle flashing across his face. Then he put on a resolute expression as if he were about to head to the execution ground. "Victoria, I'm sorry." I crossed my arms and looked at him with interest, wanting to see what kind of stunt this guy was about to pull again. I was in the wrong before. I shouldn't have thrown a fit with you just to protect my sojan called self-gen respect. What happened at the restaurant last night made you unhappy, and I apologize to you. As he said this, Derek actually bent over and gave me a standard 90-degree bow. "My mother has to pay the nursing home arrears as soon as possible, or she'll be kicked out. Get this car started right now and take me to pay the bill." He straightened up and went on in a matter, Jan of Jan fact, commanding tone. "You can let me drive this Maybach from now on, and then take me to buy a custom wristwatch like the one from last night. Also, fire that blonde thug by your side immediately. I don't want to see him again." I was so mad I almost laughed. So this is the confidence of the legendary alpha male even. After rebirth, that suffocating air of utterly average, yet absurd self-gen confidence hasn't changed one bit. So this is the attitude you come to my door with when asking for support. I mocked coldly. The 2 words support deeply stabbed Derek's fragile nerves. In his mind, he was a prophet holding the future direction of Silicon Valley tech for the next 10 years in his hands. The reason he condescended to come to me was because he was willing to give me a chance to invest in his future once his tech company went public on NASDAQ. Whether it was the big shots on Wall Street or the rising elites of Silicon Valley, all they could do was look up at him. He thought that just by lowering his head and apologizing, I should already be overwhelmed with gratitude. Victoria, I already bowed to you. Derek's face flushed red, his eyes full of rage, as if I had done something utterly unforgivable. I've already backed down this far, and you're still not satisfied. Do you have to completely crush my dignity before you'll be happy? How much is your bow worth? I mercilessly tore off his mask. The overdue bill you owe is $20,005,000. Can this one bow of yours be swiped as cash or be mortgaged to a bank? At this moment, the barrage split into two extremes. The female supporting character is so vicious. The male lead is already being so humble, and she is still putting on that lofty capitalist face. Vicious my ass, total Queen Victoria behavior. Why should she still have to watch his expression after giving him money? Don't indulge him. I'm dying laughing. This male lead is the textbook type who wants it both ways. He wants the rich woman's money, and also wants the rich woman to kneel to him. Good, very good, Derek said, good twice in a row, a venomous light flashing in his eyes. You think just because my mother owes fees, I have no choice but to cling to you. Victoria, today you humiliate me like this with money. One day, I will make you repay it 100-fold in Silicon Valley. Don't bully a poor young man. After saying that, he turned around with great backbone and strode out of the underground parking garage. It is just a pity that his backbone didn't last very long. Very soon, I saw him again, inside the boutique independent cafe on the ground floor of my group's headquarters building. That arrogant future tech tycoon ultimately still bowed his head to the reality of rent and basic survival, put on a dark green apron, and started working here as a part-time barista for $15 an hour. When I went downstairs with a few documents to get coffee, he was standing in front of the counter, getting viciously chewed out by the store manager. The customer is God. If a customer wants 3 pumps of vanilla syrup in her latte, then you give it to her. What gives you the right to criticize a customer's bad taste? The manager was trembling with rage. You even tried to educate the customer about not understanding coffee, like you're the only one who gets it, huh? With an arrogant look on his face, Derek snapped back. Of course. What I used to drink every morning was top-gen grade geisha. Adding syrup to this kind of low-gen quality commercial bean is practically a crime. The manager mocked him mercilessly. Do you even know how much a cup of top-gen grade geisha costs? Your whole day's wages don't even deserve to smell it. Now, go take out the trash from the back kitchen. Oh, Miss Victoria. The moment the manager turned his head and saw me walking in, he immediately put on an extremely gentle, fawning smile. This way, please. The usual, an iced Americano, right? I nodded and sat down on the VIP sofa by the window. After a while, Derek walked over carrying my iced Americano. He set the cup down on the table with a heavy thud, but made no move to leave. Something you need. I flipped through the documents in my hand without even looking up. A smug sneer appeared on Derek's face. You came downstairs specifically to see me, didn't you? I knew it. You still can't forget me at all. What is this guy even speaking English? How come I know every word when you split them apart, but once you put them together, I can't understand a thing? Bullet comments drifted across mid-air. Male lead, how can you do this? Has your heart already tilted toward the supporting female character? Did you forget Raven is still waiting for you? Help, the American Zen style average Gen yet, Zen confident guy really is a universal joke. Where the hell does he get his confidence from? Derek had already sat down across from me on his own. My current downfall is only temporary. I've already sent an email to Mr. Richard, a top Wall Street venture capital tycoon. Derek lowered his voice and gave me a mysterious smile. As it happens, we arranged to meet face to face at this cafete. When the time comes, he'll provide the capital, and I'll provide the tech with the AI algorithms in my brain that are beyond this era. Guaranteed profit. No loss. He leaned forward, looking at me as if bestowing charity. Victoria, you still don't know, do you? Actually, I was rebirthed from the future back to the past. In this life, I'm destined to become the richest man in America. No matter how hard you scheme to get my attention, I'm still a man way out of your league. Too noisy, I tapped the table and waved at the manager in the distance. Boss, could you ask your employee to have some sense of boundaries? He is disturbing my work. The manager, who had been ignored, came running over drenched in sweat, his face flushed red. Derek, what are you doing here? Get your ass to the back and wash the cups. Now, you're fired. Derek, almost at the same time, the cafe's front door was shoved open roughly. Two angry voices rang out at once. Raven rushed in with a middle-aged couple. They were her parents, Emma and Mrs. Smith. Mr. Smith charged up to Derek and grabbed him by the collar of his green barista apron. Pay it back. Hurry up and pay my daughter back. Mrs. Smith, meanwhile, loudly accused him from the side. You look all decent and proper, and you're even an Ivy League college graduate. So how are you doing the kind of dirty tricks where you scam women out of their money? We watched you grow up, and you actually even cheated Raven out of her hard-earned money. Derek's brows knitted tightly together as he forcefully shook him off. Mr. Smith, what are you making a scene about? I can't understand a thing. Raven walked out from behind her parents, her eyes red-rimmed. What are you playing dumb for last night at the Michelin restaurant? Because your card got declined. I ended up covering $1,250. Raven's voice was shrill. You said you'd transfer it to me by noon today at the latest. It is already afternoon. That is next month's rent for me. Pay me back now. The white den collar workers in the cafe all stopped talking and turned their eager den to den watch the den drama gazers over here. Being publicly hounded for debt, Derek felt utterly humiliated, and his temper flared too. It is just a little over $1,000. Did you really have to drag your whole family to the place where I work to make a scene? Besides, didn't you eat the French escargot last night too? Raven's eyes went wide as she looked at him in disbelief. You were the one who said you wanted to celebrate getting a big round of funding and took the initiative to invite me out to dinner. Mr. Smith had a nasty temper and stepped forward again to shove Derek. Cut the crap. Hand over the money now. My daughter earned that by busting her ass carrying plates. The store manager was frantic, running in circles. Security where's security? If you have something to say it properly. Don't make a scene in my store. I don't have cash right now, but I'll have a few million in investment very soon. Derek roared amid the shoving. Just wait 1 more hour. Wait for what, Yulia? I won't believe another word out of your mouth. Raven lost control of her emotions and rushed up to turn out Derek's pockets. The contemptuous and mocking looks from the onlookers around them scraped at Derek's fragile self-esteem, like blades slicing him alive. Humiliated and enraged, he suddenly shoved Raven away with all his strength. When did you become this materialistic and this unreasonable? You're absolutely making a fool of yourself. Raven was wearing ill-fitting shoes, and from that shove she staggered back several steps, on the verge of falling hard onto the unforgiving marble floor in an ugly heap. At that critical split second, a pair of strong arms caught her steadily. Careful. A handsome man in an exquisitely tailored haute couture suit and gold gem-rimmed glasses steadied Raven. Still shaken, Raven looked up. "Thank you." With just a single exchange of glances, both Raven and the man blushed at the same time. The live comments instantly exploded. "Aha, isn't this Raven's husband from her previous life? A Wall Street elite executive." The gears of fate have started turning. Even with a different time and place, the heroine still met someone who truly loves her and can protect her. Honestly, a top 10-tier trash Phoenix man like Derek needs to be kicked out ASAP. Raven deserves better. "What the hell are you, barging in to meddle in my business?" Derek furiously roared at the elite man who was holding Raven up like a wild beast driven into a dead end. Raven immediately straightened up from the man's arms and shot back with red and rimmed eyes. "Derek, quit biting people here like a mad dog. Are you paying back the money or not?" The elite man in gold, rimmed glasses soothingly patted Raven on the shoulder, then turned to look at the coffee shop manager beside them, who was sweating profusely with anxiety. "Manager, since this barista has caused such a huge disturbance for your shop, I imagine the wages he has earned during this period should be just enough to repay this lady's debt, right?" The manager felt as if he had been granted a pardon. This was simply the best excuse to dump the huge troublemaker Derek. He immediately rushed to the cash register and hammered away at it with a loud clatter. Right, Derek. And on your very first day at work you cause me this huge mess. You can't even carry a plate properly. After taking out the 3 mugs you broke, deducting the compensation, and adding the hourly wage you earned, then taking out the $1,250 to return to this Miss Smith. There's $45 left. The manager pulled a few bills out of the drawer and stuffed them, along with a handful of coins, into Derek's apron pocket. "Take your leftover money, and don't come to work tomorrow right now. This instant, get the hell out of my store." The Smith couple, after getting the money, shot Derek a vicious glare, then turned and left with Raven. Before going out, that elite man even very gentlemanly pushed open the glass door for Raven. The holographic bullet comments in midair flashed by like crazy. "Fate's corrective force is way too strong. That man is Ethan Raven's Wall Street executive husband from her previous life. Change the time and place, and true love will still meet. Derek, this absolute trashy parasite man, is completely out of the game." Seeing the male lead get his pay docked in public to pay off the debt seriously feels so damn good. This is the price of arrogance. When the farce ended, the cafe returned to hushed whispers. Derek yanked off the dark green apron he had on and slammed it hard onto the floor. He turned his head, his bloodshot, eyes fixed deadly on me, sitting in the VIP corner, watching coldly the whole time. Seeing me this miserable, getting humiliated by a bunch of lowlifes. "Are you very happy?" "Victoria, you forced me into all this." I picked up my iced Americano and took a light sip-me tone. So calm, it didn't have the slightest ripple. "Not at all. You're really taking yourself too seriously. I've seen people more glorious than you, and I've also seen people worse off than you. In my eyes, you amount to nothing." Derek strode up to my table, planted both hands on the tabletop, and ground out a low declaration through clenched teeth. "Don't get cocky too soon, I told you. I hold the tech trend of the next 10 years in my hands. As long as I get Mr. Richards' venture capital today, I'll shoot straight to the top immediately." As if to prove his wild claim, the cafe's front door was pushed open again. A middle-aged man in a bespoke handmade suit, with his hair combed perfectly into place, walked in surrounded by a crowd of assistants. It was none other than Richard, the legendary top venture capital tycoon of Wall Street. Derek's eyes instantly burst with fanatical light. He straightened his wrinkled shirt and quickly went up to greet him. "Mr. Richard, you're finally here. This way, please." Richard stopped in his tracks, looking at the down and out young man in front of him, who wasn't even wearing a suit jacket. With a puzzled expression, his brows slightly furrowed, he turned to look at me in the distance and shot me an inquiring glance. "Victoria, who is this?" I shrugged. "A barista who just got fired." Richard nodded and said to the assistant beside him, "Go buy me a latte." After saying that, he walked around Derek and came straight toward me. Derek panicked and immediately stepped in front of Richard to stop him. "Mr. Richard, it is me. I'm Derek. The Derek who sent you that future AI algorithm busyness proposal yesterday. Weren't you here today to meet me and discuss a multi-million-dollar investment?" Richard stopped walking, and the bodyguards behind him immediately stepped forward to separate Derek from him. Richard thought for a moment, then suddenly realized, "Oh, so it is you." My secretary did mention that email full of wild fantasies to me. Derek was overjoyed. That AI project will absolutely change the entire landscape of Silicon Valley. Its future valuation will be at least, young man, stop right there. Richard raised a hand, cutting off his endless stream of words, his tone carrying the coldness and arrogance unique to a Wall Street capitalist. "I glanced at your email. The direction isn't bad, but in Silicon Valley, there are as many people who can spot a trend as hairs on an ox. An idea is the cheapest thing there is." Richard pointed at me, sitting on the sofa, mercilessly shattering Derek's last illusion. On one side is an unemployed barista who is flat broke and can't even afford a decent cup of coffee. On the other side is Victoria's president, with extremely deep pockets and control over America's top 10-tier media channels. Tell me if I want to break into the AI field. Who do you think I'd choose to work with for a win-gen-win? This right here is the ultimate destruction of the idea guy syndrome. We all know a Derek, the guy who listens to 3 business podcasts, has a revolutionary app idea, and thinks he is the next Steve Jobs. He just needs someone else to build it, fund it, and market it. Derek literally traveled back in time with the cheat codes to the next 10 years of tech. And he still failed. Why? Because ideas are worthless without execution and capital. Derek's arrogance was so terminal that he actually believed Richard invested in him in the previous life because of his raw talent. He was completely blind to the fact that Richard only took his meetings because Victoria's massive corporate empire was standing right behind him. Men like Derek love to erase the invisible labor and financial backing of the women who build them. He thought he was the asset. Richard looked at him in his green barista apron and delivered the coldest, most accurate reality check ever. You are a liability. Victoria is the bank. Never mistake your proximity to power for actually having it. The chance to make money is right there. So what makes you think that just because you get to live your life over again, all the capital in the world has to clear the way for you? In the previous life, the only reason Richard was willing to work with Derek was because I was standing behind Derek, along with my massive group capital. But in this life, without me, he is just a worthless pauper. I stood up and reached out my hand to Richard with a smile. "Mr. Richard, the private meeting room upstairs is ready. Shall we go up and talk in detail?" As I turned and walked toward the elevator, a piercing phone ringtone suddenly rang out behind me. Derek picked up the call with trembling hands. It was from the rehab center. The sound leaking from the phone was so bad that I clearly heard the cold announcement from the other end. "Mr. Derek, we regret to inform you that your mother stopped having a heartbeat 10 minutes ago." Derek completely collapsed onto the marble floor. For the sake of a vague and intangible blueprint of the future, he lost the only and last family member he had in this life. By the time Richard and I finished signing a merger letter of intent worth over $100 million upstairs and returned to the lobby, it was already dark outside. To my surprise, Derek was still standing in the cold wind outside the cafe, fate like a ghost. When Richard saw this, he smiled at me a little teasingly. "Victoria, looks like you've attracted quite a few crazy admirers." I sighed helplessly, sorry to make you laugh. After Richard got into the bulletproof luxury car under his bodyguard's escort and left, Derek dragged his heavy steps over to me. He was shivering from the sea breeze in Los Angeles at night. The light in his eyes had completely gone out, and his voice was hoarse to a frightening degree. "Victoria, you won. In the last life, you used that unlimited black card, those top gentier banquets and luxury goods, to spoil me too much. I admit it, my stomach is already used to Michelin, and my body can no longer handle the bottom gen rung life without money." As if he had used up all the strength in his body and abandoned all his self-gen respect. He looked at me pleadingly. "I can't leave you anymore. Take me back with you. As long as you pay for my mother's nursing home, from now on, I'll stay obediently in your apartment, be a well-dan behaved dog, and do whatever you tell me to do." And here we have the spectacular collapse of the fragile male ego. Remember Chapter 1. Remember Derek throwing the black card on the Persian rug, screaming about his dignity, and vowing never to be manipulated by her filthy money. Well, it turns out that dignity doesn't pay for nursing homes, and true love doesn't buy vintage bourbon. When reality finally broke him, Derek didn't rise from the ashes. He crawled back to Victoria and begged for the exact same collar he claimed was choking him. He didn't actually hate being kept. He just hated that he didn't have the upper hand. He wanted to bite the hand that fed him, but still expected the meals to arrive on time. Victoria's response, simply telling him she doesn't keep useless idlers and threatening a restraining order, is the epitome of queen behavior. She didn't gloat. She was just bored of him. The opposite of love isn't hate. It is apathy. And Victoria's absolute indifference is what finally shattered him. A trace of pity flashed through the scrolling comments in midair. The male lead's last bit of pride was also broken by cruel reality. Without the glittering female supporting character, the rebirth person's script is nothing but a piece of waste paper. This is all his own doing. If he hadn't gone chasing some non-existent white moonlight from the start, if he hadn't treated the female supporting character's devotion as an insult, how would he have ended up like this? What about the male lead's mother? Didn't read carefully earlier, huh? The rehab center already stopped the expensive targeted drugs this afternoon. His mother was transferred into the hospice ward around dusk, and she just passed away. Looking at the man before me, humble to the point of being dust, I felt not a ripple in my heart, only disgust at the trouble. "Derek, you seem to have gotten your place wrong." I tightened the cashmere coat around me and looked at him coldly. "I'm already preparing for a marriage alliance with the Sterling family's heir. By my side, I have never kept useless idlers. If you show up in front of me again, like some delusional stalker, then I can only restricting order you. This is the last warning. Suit yourself." I strode straight toward my Maybach in high heels. Behind me came Derek's heart-breaking, utterly shattered scream in the cold wind. No, late autumn a few months later. "Sis, you've been busy dealing with the merger case lately, and you haven't paid any attention to me for days." The moment I walked out of the company doors, I saw Oliver stop in front of me, dressed in an outrageously flashy custom white suit and driving a gaudy bright Dan red Ferrari. He took off his sunglasses, and those blue eyes were still sparkling like a golden retriever's. I looked at him with a bit of a headache. "Why did you come here? Didn't I have my assistant tell you that I'm going to a meeting this weekend for a business marriage alliance? Since you're already going off for an arranged marriage, I'll take this chance to make things clear." Oliver jumped down from the sports car, pouting. I took out a check from my bag. "Oliver, you're a good boy. But after I get married, I have to consider the Sterling family's reputation, so I can't openly keep you in an apartment anymore. Here's $2 million, plus the supporting role opportunity with director Nolan that I fought to get for you before. It's enough for you to get a firm foothold in Hollywood. You're free now." Oliver didn't take the check. Instead, he let out a puff of laughter. He laughed extremely loudly, making passers-by turn their heads one after another. "Sis, what exactly are you talking about?" Oliver leaned closer to me, a naughty grin curling at the corner of his mouth. "The Sterling family marriage alliance match you're going to meet is me. Nice to properly meet you. I'm the sole heir of Sterling Hotels Group, Oliver Sterling." Now it was my turn to be surprised. Oliver held my hand and confessed to me about his ridiculous experience. He was a rich second-gen with dreams, dead set on getting into Hollywood and winning an Oscar, but his conservative tycoon parents absolutely refused, forcing him to go study at Wharton Business School. In a fit of anger, he ran away from home and even threw out a harsh line. "Without spending a single cent of the Sterling family's money, I can still become a superstar." As a result, to force him to compromise, his parents cut off all his black cards and blocked every connection he had. The once-gen young heir of a financial empire almost ended up busking on the streets. Just when he'd gone hungry for 3 days and was standing on the streets of Los Angeles, hesitating over whether to give up on his dream and go home to inherit a $1 billion fortune, I showed up and directly slapped an unlimited black card into his hand. Not only that, I also used my own resources to help him get an audition opportunity and fulfill his Hollywood dream. "Sis, you're basically my angel investor." Oliver held my hand and gently kissed my fingertips, his gaze turning incomparably affectionate. Not only did I land the audition for that film by director Nolan, the independent short film I edited myself has also wrapped, and it even won Best Newcomer at the Sundance Film Festival. I proved myself, and my parents don't meddle with me anymore either. When they heard you'd supported me, they practically wanted to put you on an altar right away. He scratched his hair, a little embarrassed. "Actually, the day I met you, I'd been starving for 3 days. I pawned off all the luxury watches and clothes on me for food, and that ragged outfit was an extras costume I dug up at a Hollywood second-hand market. As for that clean background file your assistant found, I asked my grandma, the one who dotes on me most, to use the family's connections to forge it. I didn't expect it to fool even your professional business team." Oliver blushed a little awkwardly. "Sis, all the good luck I've had from when I was little until now seems to have come from you. I like you so much. Are you willing to turn things real with that fake boyfriend you signed a contract with, and marry me?" I remembered what my mother said on the phone 2 days ago about this young master of the Sterling family. Even though he is a silly, sweet idiot, with no interest in inheriting the family business, and nothing but Hollywood in his head, his biggest advantage is that he is insanely beautiful, emotionally stable, and does whatever you want. Victoria, this totally non-gen aggressive, pretty little puppy is perfect for marrying a workaholic like you. I looked at those blue eyes full of expectation in front of me and smiled as I nodded. Of course. Happy working together, young Master Sterling. Both families were extremely satisfied with this alliance of two powerhouses' marriage. We held a wedding of the century, costing tens of millions of dollars, at a private estate on Malibu Beach in California. Just as I was wearing my custom wedding gown and holding Oliver's arm, getting ready to exchange rings, a sudden commotion came from the lawn outside the estate. No one knew what dog hole Derek had crawled in through. He was filthy all over, screaming like a madman as he rushed toward the ceremony stage. I regret it. It shouldn't have been like this. Victoria, you're supposed to love me. When he saw Oliver on the stage, in a white groom's suit, Derek's eyes instantly went red with rage. It was you, in my last life. There clearly wasn't even a person like you. You stole my black card, stole Victoria, stole the life that was supposed to be mine. Derek had completely gone insane, like a bull out of control. He charged straight at us, trying to cause one last bit of destruction. How is this guy as annoying as a cockroach? Oliver's upturned lips instantly dropped, and he firmly shielded me behind him. However, at this top 10-tier security scene costing tens of millions, Derek's madness seemed utterly ridiculous. Before he could even rush up the steps, my chief security Captain Marcus appeared in an instant like an iron tower, and with one clean, efficient takedown move, directly slammed Derek hard onto the solid marble floor. Derek's face was crushed against the ground, letting out a pained, muffled groan. But he still stared at me fixedly, desperate howls coming from his mouth. Hand him over to the LAPD outside and charge him with illegal trespassing and attempted assault. I gave the order coldly. The security guards dragged Derek out of the estate like they were hauling off a dead dog. The wedding went smoothly, under the Pacific sea breeze and the sunset. Oliver and I exchanged those pink diamond rings as big as pigeon eggs. By the time all the socializing was over, it was already late at night. I leaned wearily against the genuine leather sofa in the Ocean's End view suite, while Oliver sat behind me, gently massaging my aching shoulders. Security Chief Marcus knocked and came in to report. "Boss, we got word from the LAPD. That man named Derek was judged to be mentally dazed at the station. After being released at dusk, he wandered onto Highway Yaolinyal alone. Out of his mind, he was hit by a speeding heavy truck and died on the spot." I couldn't help thinking of how his last life ended. The gears of fate turned one full circle and came back to the starting point. The holographic bullet comments, unseen for a long time, lit up one last time in front of the floor, den-to-den ceiling window of the C-Gen View house. Does this count as different roads leading to the same end? The male lead got another shot and made completely different choices, but he still ended up dying on the same highway. Right before he died, he was still muttering, "Let me be reborn one more time." He thought he could still turn it around. Forget it. Everyone go watch the female lead and the puppy young master's honeymoon vlog. A power couple joining forces and running toward each other is the sweetest. If the male lead keeps looping like this, wouldn't that turn into a scary infinite flow story? No, for someone like him, who forever blames others for his own failures, and is both arrogant and useless. Even if he started over 10,000 times, he'd only walk toward the same hell. The faint glow of the bullet comments gradually faded in the night, turning transparent, until it vanished completely. I picked up the champagne on the table and took a light sip. These bullet comments might be some kind of rule from a higher dimensional world, or maybe an immune system this world produced to correct errors. But now the bug has been completely eliminated. Feeling the warmth of Oliver's body as he wrapped his arms around me from behind, I looked at the waves outside the window and smiled faintly. That is right. There won't be a next time. Because no matter how many times it starts over, the weak will only ever complain about fate, while the strong have long since taken control of the rules of their own lives. The weak will only ever complain about fate, while the strong have long since taken control of the rules of their own lives. Ladies, let's get comfortable and really unpack this ending, because Victoria is the blueprint we should all be studying, underneath the sci-fi rebirth tropes and the billionaire aesthetics. This story touches on a very real, very exhausting dynamic. How many of us have dated a guy who resented our success? The kind of man who happily lives in your nice apartment, drinks your expensive coffee, and leverages your network, but constantly makes snide comments about how you're too controlling or obsessed with money. Derek is the ultimate cautionary tale of the parasite who thinks he's the host. He was handed a literal miracle, a second chance at life with future knowledge, and he squandered it in record time because his entire identity was built on unearned confidence. He thought he was a captive bird, completely ignoring the fact that Victoria built the golden cage, fed him the premium seed, and kept the predators away. The second he flew the coop, he crashed straight into a window. What I love most about Victoria is her absolute surgical detachment. When Derek threw his little tantrum, she didn't write him a paragraph. She didn't try to prove her worth. She literally looked at a hot guy on the sidewalk and said, "You'll do." And let's talk about Oliver, the golden retriever who turned out to be a billionaire heir. Oliver is the perfect foil to Derek because Oliver actually possessed what Derek only pretended to have: security. Oliver didn't feel emasculated by Victoria handing him a black card. He thought it was hot. He didn't need to tear her down to make himself feel like a man. He just wanted to edit his indie films, look pretty, and provide top-tier emotional value. He let her be the boss because he was already secure in his own kingdom. This story proves that you cannot fix a man who is committed to misunderstanding you. Derek spent 2 lifetimes blaming Victoria for his own mediocrity. He died on the exact same highway because, regardless of the timeline, a toxic, lazy man will always walk himself straight into hell. So let's take this to the comments. I want to hear your stories. And you know, this is a safe space. Have you ever dated an idea guy, someone who was full of grand plans for the future, but expected you to foot the bill in the present? And more importantly, have you ever had the absolute pleasure of cutting off a man's financial or emotional supply only to watch his self-made persona disintegrate in record time? There is so much power in simply matching a man's energy and walking away. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't ruining their life. It is just letting them try to survive without you. Drop your stories down below. Vent it out, validate each other, and remind yourselves to never, ever fund a man's audacity. I read every single comment. Stay ruthless, protect your peace and your black cards, and I'll see you in the next one.